All aboard! Welcome to the All Aboard podcast. I am your host, Brandon DeFreitas, coming to you from DeFreitas Enterprises Studios. And do we have a guest for you today? I believe probably our most requested guest because he's currently dominating the league in first place with the most points. Mark, how are you today?
Pretty good. Just got back to Weymouth not too long ago. Spent the whole day in Quincy because the power was out for a couple days here. But Griffey and I are back. Got my Brady jersey on to represent CB12 method. Griffey's taking a nap right there in the background on the Patriots blanket. I think
I
you can
do wish
see the Brady picture right there too. Ned Stark right there. John will love that.
Totally representing. Well, I know for each of these, we've kicked it off. We've given a little bit of an introduction for the league and a little quick background. I won't get into it too much. The reason Mark was laughing a little bit at the beginning is this is take number 2. We got a little bit far and then we had to retake because certain host was unwilling to to do any editing. But I'll stop there and I'll let you introduce yourself, Mark.
Yep. So I'm one of the PwC guys. I've been at PwC for about 10 plus years now. The 6 of us that worked at PwC, we were all on the same engagement team, basically working together. At the beginning of the career, I feel like there was lots of like happy hours every Friday. Then it kind of just trickled off and became like happy hours every once in a while. And now we're all just working remotely and there's only a few of us left. Tam's still with us, but he's over in Connecticut. Travers is on another team. Me and Brandon still do work together. Edwin and John are basically clients now. But yeah, I've definitely worked a lot with the rest of the crew, which is basically half the league, the PwC guys. So definitely glad to get into this bigger dynasty league, just to get to see like what this is like, because I've really only done the redraft leagues and then a keeper league as well.
Yep. Well, I know you're definitely one of the big baseball owners in I always talk about our baseball league that really started us playing fantasy together. And there's been talk that you've enjoyed the dynasty so much there might be a dynasty baseball league next year.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make it happen. I haven't quite looked into like how the rules would work, but I'm definitely willing to do it. I'll be the commissioner if needed. I don't really have any experience commissioning. It's always Brandon and John, but I think I'll definitely give it a shot. I'll look into it. I think it would be pretty cool to be able to just like draft guys and hold on to them long term. Not sure really how it would work. Maybe we would like draft, because I know it like in football we can just draft rookies. Baseball is a little bit different, so maybe there'd be some type of like minor league draft each year or something like that based on top prospects. But I think I definitely want to give it a shot.
Yeah, no, I do as well. I've enjoyed I've really enjoyed the format we have going here and the long-term element to it. And I mean, I'm sitting here at the bottom of the league at 1-6. I'm still engaged. We're still doing the podcast every week. We're booked out 2 weeks too, Mark. So things are going well in the league right now. And yeah, I would totally be into a dynasty baseball league.
It's funny because baseball is definitely my number one sport. Huge Red Sox fan. I went to like a million of the playoff games. Like I basically watch every Sox game, but then I'm never good at fantasy baseball. I think it's just like I have like my favorite players, and I'm always drafting my favorites and like picking up my favorite players on waivers. And I just like I don't know, maybe I don't put enough like thought into like what I should actually do to like win the matchups.
It's funny because you remind me of one of my college roommates who was like same deal, like baseball is his number one sport. He loves it. And the first year I played fantasy baseball, he drafted Nick Punto, who used to be a second baseman for the Minnesota Twins. And he's like, oh yeah, he's great on defense. And I was like, you're aware there's no defense in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, that's funny.
But let's get into this. I think one of the interesting things we're going to talk about the trade market a little bit, and then we're going to get into. I know you've done a little bit of an analysis of the big 5 teams in the league, who their franchise players are, etc. So I'm excited to get into that and kind of pick it apart. But before we do, the trade market's been pretty stale, and I know you're one of the contenders. I'm one of the people at the bottom. It feels like the teams at the bottom are trying to sell, and then the teams at the top are sitting there biding their time, maybe waiting for better prices. I don't know. I want to get your perspective because clearly my perspective has been all over the message board.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm known as one of the guys who makes a lot of moves or a lot of trades, whether it's like fantasy baseball or fantasy football. Especially me and you, we've made lots of trades. Some of them questionable. We're not.
Well, along those lines, we were punished one year in the baseball league for colluding at the end to keep a certain member out of the playoffs. So, but we've learned that we don't do that in fantasy football. It was a
Yeah.
one-time thing.
Unlike the
John,
Astros, we got punished and we learned our lesson.
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Always willing to make trades. I mean, like I'm in a keeper league where we did the draft order in the off season, and like I made like a ton of trades in the off season, just like moving around the draft board, and then several trade. Like last year, I think my team was bad, so I traded basically my whole team just to get like potential keepers and like better draft picks and stuff like that too. Um, so I'm definitely willing to trade. I've got a lot of trade offers. I've declined them all, but definitely feel free to keep sending them along. I think for me, just to describe my point of view, is I don't want to make any moves just yet unless it's a no doubter, just because, like, let's just say I trade one of my draft picks next year for a wide receiver. Like, sure, it might seem like a good deal in that moment, but then what if, like, a couple weeks from now, when the trade deadline hasn't happened yet, like, what if I lose one of my key running backs, and all of a sudden, like, it's like, all right, like maybe I should have kept that draft picks that way I could trade for a running back, or maybe even like I lose Tom Brady and Justin Herbert or something crazy, and like I'm clearly not even a legitimate contender anymore. And then I'll be saying, all right, I just traded away a draft pick that I probably shouldn't have. So I think I'm trying to just wait till closer to the trade deadline to see exactly what I need, like see how many injuries have taken place. But like when I look at my team, I kind of go through and I see like what my starting lineup is, and I feel like I'm good for now. But I'm definitely aware that like one or two injuries could just like blow up my lineup, especially lately, like the bye is coming up and like I've had a bunch of injuries so far. I've had to put some questionable starters in there. I think last week I started Madison, even though like Dalvin Cook was healthy.
Yeah.
It was just I just like I had to put a body in there.
So reading between the lines, it sounds like you're a guy who makes moves. You're going to make moves, but you're just waiting to see what position. Well, number one, you're waiting to see, am I still a contender based on injuries?
Mhm.
And number two, what positions do I need to invest in later in the season as close as you can get to the deadline before making a decision?
Yep. And as long as nothing crazy happens, I think it'll be running back and wide receiver. Because at QB, I've got Brady and Herbert, and then I have Mac Jones as insurance.
Recently
Tight
called
end,
up.
yep, first call up, I think. Tight end, I have Kittle. I just saw that he's coming back week 9. But then I also have Gronk and Jared Cook, a couple of veterans, like just in case I need to plug those guys in when there's injuries or buys.
Yeah.
But really, it's just going to be making sure I have enough running backs and wide receivers to fill up the starting spots and the flex spots.
Makes sense. Well, I do like what you said too. Like you've realized like depth is going to be a big thing. I mean, we have 4 flex spots plus a super flex. So there's a lot of players you have to roll out there. And I, as the 1-6 team, I think I'm done, Mark. I don't think there's any way I'm climbing back into this. I had a sliver of hope last week. I was like, if I can get to 2-5, I like my team getting healthier. Maybe I could sneak in, beat out Ben and Jimmy for the last playoff spot. But I think that ship has sailed. So seeing where I'm at, I mean, how would you feel about starting Marvin Jones in that spot over Alexander Madison?
And that sounds like it would be very helpful for my team. Um, One other thing, just to throw it out there so I don't forget. So there's a 5-way tie for first. We're all 5-2. And the structure for the playoffs in this league, I think it's 2 buys, right?
Yep.
So yeah, so I feel like the 5 of us, it's like wide open to get the one of the top 2 seeds. Like any 2 of us could end up getting it. So I feel like the 5 of us probably should all be buyers. And I
Yep.
guess maybe that does give a little bit of incentive for us to start making moves sooner rather than later, even though I just made the opposite argument. Just because, like, if you end up getting one of those top 2 seeds, you basically won that first round of the playoffs.
Yep.
And
Agreed.
if you get that, then all you have to do, you have a 25% chance to win it all if you can just win your 2 playoff matchups.
Well, and along those lines, I've actually been doing this. I've been looking at some of the contenders, those who have bye weeks. Tried last week, try to leverage that and be like, hey, like, every win's going to count when you're trying to get one of those bye weeks. So I've been trying to get people at the right time to go ahead and make a deal. So, hey, I like that mentality for sure.
Yeah, so what do you think? What's your asking price for Marvin Jones?
Well, let's catch everyone up because the other day we're messaging back and forth, and I'm sure I've messaged almost every owner on Marvin Jones at this point. And my first ask weeks ago was a 2022 second. So the upcoming draft in the second round. Full transparency, no one was interested at that price, understandably so. So at this time, I would move him for a 2022 current year third round pick. The reason I think it's a fair offer is Marvin Jones. I believe he's receiver 32 right now. So he's in the wide receiver 3 range with 4 flex positions. I think he's firmly like a flex worthy starter. And I think it's a good depth piece for a contender. I also feel like third round, there's some debate in the league, and none of us have done a rookie draft. So I'm not saying someone's right or someone's wrong, but there's a debate over the value of draft picks. And the way I sort of look at it is a third rounder is a bit of a dart throw. Like it could be something good. It could pan out for you, but I think the majority of the time it's probably not going to be an asset that's going to fetch you a future starter. But that's where I'm at right now. And just to so I know we talked about the second, that wasn't going to work. I threw out the third, and then the response I got from you was, let's continue on the pod. So we're on the pod, Mark. Ball's in your court. How do you feel about a current year third round pick?
Yeah. So I guess first of all, I got confused by your language because I think you were saying current year. So you're saying the upcoming draft in like 2022, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I think
because
I'm ready. I think I'll do that trade. I don't know if you have better
oh
offers or what.
no, that's that. I think that's the best price I can throw out at the moment. And part of the reason I want this too, and like to give some background to it. Number one, I'm a team that's not going to be relevant next year. Marvin Jones is under contract next year. He has a $5 million dead cap. So there's a chance he's around, but he is 31 years old. So for me at the bottom of the standings, I'm not really counting on him beyond this season. I don't think would be wise for anyone to. And I do have a player on free agency I'm pretty anxious to pick up. So I've been trying to get the deal done so I can get that player on my roster, and then we could talk a little bit more about him. But so that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So like looking at my team, if I were to acquire two of my wide receivers that are guys I put in there each week, Hopkins and Mike Evans. So it's really like I need to make sure that I have 4 flex spots that I can fill out. Mike Williams is one of them for sure. Michael Thomas will hopefully be back. Antonio Brown is hurt, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
That's 3 if everybody's healthy. And I feel like Marvin Jones would probably contend for that 4th spot, maybe like him, Sterling Shepard, depending on the week, depending on the matchup, if everyone's healthy. Quickly scrolling down, I guess Will Fuller could potentially join that competition, but he's always hurt. Everyone else on my team is basically hurt. Sammy Watkins, Traycon Smith, Tyrell Williams. It's just a bunch of injured receivers. So I feel like Marvin Jones would just jump right into that last flex spot for me. And if like Michael Thomas doesn't come back healthy, if Antonio Brown takes a while to come back, then he might just be right into my starting spot right now this week.
I know Sterling Shepard as well had a hamstring recently. Came out today that he tweaked his other hamstring last week. He is practicing, expected to play, but some of these soft tissue injuries, you just never know how it's going to pan out for them. I know I have Nick Chubb, and he's supposed to be back this week, but they're so easy to aggravate the soft tissue injuries. It's tough to say.
Yeah. Like I feel like I'm deep at receiver, but like they're all in like battling through injuries.
Yeah.
So I'll add to it, and then I think I'll probably wait till closer to the deadline and see if I need a running back. For now, I've got Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs as my main 2 starters, but then I have both of the Arizona running backs, James Conner and Chase Edmonds. So those guys are kind of like flex/depth pieces. I do have Latavius Murray, but the Ravens seem like they can just share it between a bunch of running backs each week anyway.
Yep.
So is this like an official offer?
The offer's been submitted through the system, Mark.
Okay. All right.
We'll
I just saw it pop up.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a quick intermission here, and we will return as we figure out this trade. I'm really struggling at the moment to figure out the record, but all right. Yeah. Quick intermission. We'll be right back here on the Old Board Podcast.